Week 23 Day 1 Heterogeneous Dissimilar Sense. Our algebra class is a heterogeneous one, in which bright students are juxtaposed placed side by side with slower ones. Heterogeneous adjective formal consisting of parts or things that are very different from each other. Switzerland is a heterogeneous confederation of 26 self-governing cantons. Compare homogeneous. Heterogeneity. Noun. Formal archaeological studies of the tombs have shown the heterogeneity of religious practices in the region. Gamut. Range. Sense. The actress ran the gamut of emotions in a poignant performance that thrilled the audience. Sense. The gamut. Noun. The whole range of things that can be included in something. In her stories she expresses the whole gamut of emotions, from happiness to sorrow. Sense. Run the gamut of STH, to experience or show the whole range of something. Johnson has run the gamut of hotel work, from porter to owner of a large chain of hotels. Perspicacious. Actually perceptive. Deem. Shrewd. Sense. Senator Thorpe was perspicacious enough to realize that the scurrilous course charge would have little effect upon the voters. Sense. Perspicacious adjective formal approving, quick in noticing, understanding or judging things accurately. His perspicacious grandfather had bought the land as an investment, guessing that there might be gold underground. Perspicacity. Noun. Formal approving, the ability to understand things quickly and make accurate judgments. A woman of exceptional perspicacity. Analogous. Comparable. Similar. Sense. Although the lawyer acknowledged that the two cases were hardly analogous, he still felt that he had a good precedent on his side. One analogy. A comparison between things which have similar features, often used to help explain a principle or idea. He drew an analogy between the brain and a vast computer. It is sometimes easier to illustrate an abstract concept by analogy by comparing it with something concrete. Analogous adjective. The experience of mystic trance is in a sense analogous to sleep or drunkenness. Maladjusted. Poorly adjusted, disturbed. Sense. The Bureau of Child Guidance has been the salvation for some maladjusted children. Sense. Maladjusted adjective describes a person, usually a child, who has been raised in a way that does not prepare them well for the demands of life, which often leads to problems with behavior in the future. A residential school for disturbed and maladjusted children. Maladjustment. Noun. Antisocial behavior and other signs of maladjustment. The distaff. Side. Women. Distaff was a staff used in spinning. Sense. The men had brandy wine on the porch, while the distaff side gathered to gossip in the kitchen. From A to Z. Ellis Sloan, a teacher of science at a large metropolitan high school, first paid little attention to the fact that his two biology classes were so disparate different in their performance. In most schools the classes are alphabetically heterogeneous, with youngsters' names running the gamut from Adams to Zilch. But Biology 121 had only A's and B's, whereas Biology 128 had T's, 5's, W's, Y's, and Z's. Mr. Sloan, a perspicacious teacher, began to recognize differences between the two groups. While their reading scores and IQs were roughly analogous, it was apparent obvious that Biology 128 was replete with maladjusted students, while Biology 121 had the normal ones. Week 23 Day 2. Phenomenon. Usually occurrence. Sense. There was no paucity of witnesses to describe the phenomenon of the flying saucer. Sense. Phenomenon. Existing thing. Noun. See plural. Phenomena. Something that exists and can be seen, felt, tasted, etc., especially something which is unusual or interesting. Gravity is a natural phenomena. Do you believe in the paranormal and other psychic phenomena? There's evidence to suggest that child abuse is not just a recent phenomenon. Sense. Phenomenon. Success. Noun. See plural. Phenomena. Someone or something extremely successful, often because of special qualities or abilities. The Beatles were a phenomenon. Nobody had heard anything like them before. Phenomenal adjective. Her rise to fame was quite phenomenal. In less than 2 years she was a household name. Phenomenally adverb. His first novel was phenomenally successful. Mortality. Death. Sense. If a miner were to ponder over the high mortality rate in his occupation, he might want to quit. Sense. Mortal adjective. Literary. One of living things, especially people unable to continue living forever, having to die, for all men are mortal. Compare immortal. 2. Causing death. A mortal injury. Illness. Men engaged in mortal combat fighting until one of them dies. Figurative. New computing technology dealt a mortal blow to the power of the old printing unions. Compare lethal. 3. Mortal dread, fear, terror, extreme anxiety about or fear of someone or something. We live in mortal dread of further attacks. 4. Mortal enemy, danger, threat, etc. A very serious and dangerous enemy, danger, threat, etc. Mortal noun, see literary, mainly humorous and ordinary person, rather than a god or a special, important or powerful person. The police officers guarding the door let in the celebrities, but they prevented us lesser mere mortals from going inside. Mortality, noun, euformal 1. The way that people do not live forever, her death made him more aware of his own mortality. Compare immortality and immortal. 2. The number of deaths within a particular society and within a particular period of time. The mortality rate, infant mortality, is much higher in the poorest areas of the city. Mortally, adverb 1. So severe that death is likely. Mortally wounded 2. Extremely. I hadn't realized I'd upset him, but apparently he was mortally offended. Decade, 10 years since, after a decade of connubial acrimony, the couple decided to consult with a marriage counselor. Since decade, noun, see a period of 10 years, especially a period such as 1860 to 1869, or 1990 to 1999. Susceptible, easily affected, unusually liable. Since Ethan Frome soon learned that his querulous wife was susceptible to a variety of ailments. Since susceptible, influenced, adjective 1. Easily influenced or harmed by something. She isn't very susceptible to flattery. These plants are particularly susceptible to frost. Among particularly susceptible children, the disease can develop very fast. 2. Describe someone who is easily emotionally influenced. They persuade susceptible teenagers to part with their money. Susceptibility, noun, you. When someone or something is easily influenced, harmed or infected. Susceptibilities, plural, noun, formal. The feelings someone has which are likely to be hurt. I didn't mean to offend, upset, hurt your susceptibility. Since susceptible, provided with adjective after verb, formal, especially of an idea or statement able to be understood, proved, explained, etc. in a particular way. Shakespeare's plays are susceptible to various interpretations. UK. The facts are susceptible of other explanations. Neurotic, suffering from a nervous disorder. Sense irritability is one of the salient features of a neurotic personality. Sense neurosis, noun, C or U, plural. Neurosis, a mental illness resulting in high levels of anxiety, unreasonable fears and behavior, and, often, a need to repeat actions unnecessarily. If you want my opinion, I think she's suffering from some form of neurosis. She's obsessively clean. It's almost become a neurosis with her. Neurotic, adjective, behaving strangely or in an anxious way, often because you have a mental illness. Neurotic behavior tendencies. She's neurotic about her weight. She weighs herself 3 times a day. Neurotic, noun, see someone who behaves strangely, often because they have a mental illness. Neurotically, adverb, on the qui vive, on the alert. Sense my mother is always on the qui vive for bargains. What's in a name? As Mr. Sloan pursued his investigation of the phenomena, he discovered that a Dr. Trevor Weston of the British Medical Association had corroborated, supported his findings. Dr. Weston had studied British mortality rates over a decade, finding that people whose names began with letters ranging from S to Z had a life expectancy that averaged 12 years fewer than the rest of the population. Furthermore, those at the bottom of the alphabet tended to contract more ulcers, were more susceptible to heart attacks, and were more likely to be neurotic than those at the top of the alphabet. Week 23, Day 3. Pedagogue, teacher. Since Mr. Ford is proud to be called a teacher, but he demurs, object, refuse at the title of pedagogue. Since pedagogue, noun, C1. Disapproving, a teacher who gives too much attention to formal rules and is not interesting. Too old, use any teacher. Pedagogy, noun, you specialize the study of the methods and activities of teaching. Pedagogic, adjective, also pedagogical. Specialize, pedagogically, adverb, specialize. The minister's reforms are pedagogically questionable, not based on good teaching theory. Enunciate, proclaim. Since reporters were expecting the candidate to enunciate his policy on the escalation and increase of the war. Since enunciate, pronounce, verb I or T, formal, to pronounce words or parts of words clearly. He doesn't enunciate his words very clearly. Enunciation, noun, C or U, formal. Sense enunciate, explain. Sense verb T, formal, to state and explain a plan or principle clearly or formally. In the speech, the leader enunciated his party's proposals for tax reform. Inordinate excessive sense. In an attempt to show how assiduous he was, the executive spent an inordinate amount of time on his report. Sense. Inordinate adjective. Formal. Unreasonably or unusually large in size or degree. Margot has always spent an inordinate amount of time on her appearance. Inordinately. Adverb. Formal. She was inordinately fond of her pets. Irascible. Irritable. Sense. His profligate son made the parsimonious old crank even more irascible. Sense. Irascible. Adjective. Formal. Made angry easily. She's becoming more and more irascible as she grows older. Irascibility. Noun. Formal. Irascibly. Adverb. Formal. Introspective. Looking into one's own feelings. Sense. Since Alice is so gregarious sociable, it surprised me to learn that she is also an introspective girl. Sense. Introspection. Noun. Examination and consideration of your own ideas, thoughts and feelings. His defeat in the World Championship led to a long period of gloomy introspection. Introspective. Adjective. She is famous for her introspective songs about failed relationships. Introspectively. Adverb. To get one's back up, to become angry every time his mother mentioned getting a haircut. The young guitarist got his back up. The perils of the alphabet. Dr. Weston is convinced that the pedagogue is the culprit. Since teachers seat their pupils in alphabetical order, the S to Z child is usually the last to receive his test marks, the last to eat lunch, the last to be dismissed, and so on. As they are the last to recite, these youngsters feel frustrated, because what they had to say had usually been enunciated earlier. The inordinate amount of waiting that this group has to do causes them to become irascible and jittery. S to Z people also become quite introspective, convinced that they are inferior to those at the top of the alphabet. Null. Week 23 Day 4. Perpetuate. To cause. To continue. Since Don Ricardo hoped that his son would perpetuate the family business, but Manuel was too involved with chimerical schemes to want to run a restaurant. Since perpetrate. Verb T. Formal. To commit a crime, or a violent or harmful act. In Britain, half of all violent crime is perpetrated by people who have been drinking alcohol. Federal soldiers have been accused of perpetrating atrocities against innocent people. Perpetration. Noun. Formal. Human rights activists have accused the country's government of a systematic perpetration of violence against minority groups. Perpetrator. Noun. CS. Old-fashioned slang. Perp. Formal. Someone who has committed a crime, or a violent or harmful act. The perpetrators of the massacre must be brought to justice as war criminals. Mandate. An authoritative order or command. Sense. Mandate. Education may help minority groups to cope with their plight. Sense. Mandate. Sense. Noun. C. Usually singular. 1. The authority given to an elected group of people, such as a government, to perform an action or govern a country. At the forthcoming elections, the government will be seeking a fresh mandate from the people. Plus. To infinitive. The president secured the congressional mandate to go to war by 3 votes. To specialize. The name of an area of land which has been given to a country by the following or as part of a peace agreement. Sense. Mandate. Verb T1. To give official permission for something to happen. The unrush to mandate war totally ruled out any alternatives. 2. Mainly as to order someone to do something. Plus. To infinitive. Our delegates have been mandated to vote against the proposal at the conference. Compensatory. Serving. To pay back. Sense. As a prelude introduction to his victory speech, the mayor announced that he considered the large vote to be a compensatory from the people. Sense. Compensate. Pay money. Verb T. To pay someone money in exchange for something that has been lost or damaged or for some inconvenience. Victims of the crash will be compensated for their injuries. Compensation. Noun. Money that is paid to someone in exchange for something that has been lost or damaged or for some inconvenience. She received 40,000 in compensation for a lost eye. You should claim. Seek compensation. A compensation claim. Compensatory. Adjective. Mainly as he was awarded $3 million in compensatory damages. Neutralize. To counteract. Sense. Dr. Myers prescribed medication to neutralize the acid condition that had incapacitated my uncle. Sense. Neutral. Not noticeable. Adjective. 1. Having features or characteristics that are not easily noticed. Who wants dark red walls, but I'd rather a more neutral color like cream. 2. Describes a chemical substance that is neither an acid nor an alkali. Pure water is neutral and has a pH of 7. 3. Describes an object in physics that has no electrical charge. Atoms consist of positively charged protons, negatively charged electrons and neutral particles called neutrons. Neutralize, UK usually neutralize verb to make something neutral, acidity and so can be neutralized, have the acid removed by spreading lime on it. Neutralization, UK usually neutralization noun null sense neutralize, UK also neutralize verb to stop something from having an effect, to neutralize an acid odor. The aerial bombardments have neutralized the threat of artillery attacks on Allied ground forces. Neutralization, UK also neutralization noun catastrophic disastrous sense, if the draconian severe regulations are to continue unabated, they will have catastrophic results sense catastrophe noun see when a sudden event, that causes very great trouble or destruction, they were warned of the ecological catastrophe to come. To a bad situation, the emigration of scientists is a catastrophe for the country. Catastrophic adjective an unchecked increase in the use of fossil fuels could have catastrophic results for the planet. To bring home the bacon, to earn a living, to succeed since the man's inability to bring home the bacon was the actual reason for the couple's incompatibility. In the nature of educational reform, Mr. Sloan did not want to perpetuate the disorders that stemmed from the alphabetical arrangement. Not only did he reverse the seating in his other classes, but he began to badger the school's administration for a mandate to bring about such changes throughout the building. He called it a compensatory factor, to neutralize the catastrophic effects of the traditional policy. Soon, Mr. Sloan earned the appellation name of Mr. Backwards. Week 23 Day 5. Microsociety an antidote for school board and money, taxes, employment, legislation. These are topics that we associate with the adult world. George Richman, a Yale graduate who became a pedagogue in the New York City school system, felt that elementary school youngsters could also be interested, even excited, about such issues. He experimented in his own classes with the microsociety in which basic instruction takes place, and is reinforced as pupils operate their own businesses, pass laws, live within the parameters of a constitution that they drafted, seek redress within their own judicial system, buy and sell real estate, and so on. Richman's book on the microsociety came to the attention of the school board in Lowell, Massachusetts, and their members decided to give it a try in 1981. In much less than a decade the results were quite remarkable. Students exceeded the norm in reading and math, 8th graders passed college-level exams, school attendance went up to 96%, and the dropout rate took a nosedive, in Lowell. In microsociety's heterogeneous classes, mornings are given over to the traditional curriculum. In the afternoon, the students apply what they learned in activities that run the gamut from keeping double-entry books, doing financial audits, running a bank, and conducting court sessions to engaging in light manufacture, that leads to retail and wholesale commerce. Other perspicacious school systems have since adopted George Richman's innovative ideas. Microsociety, said a Yonkers, New York principal, gets kids to role-play life. A Time magazine reporter was much impressed with microsociety's results. Such an approach would go a long way toward making U.S. public schools a cradle of national renewal. Null.